Look at your tomato plants right now. Go ahead, walk out there and take a close look. If what you see makes you want to turn around, go back inside, and pretend you never started that garden, you are not alone. Studies from university extension programs across the United States show that more than 65% of home gardeners who grow tomatoes never harvest a full crop. Not because of bad weather, not because of pest pressure, because of what is sitting in the bag of potting mix they bought at the hardware store. That single number changed how I look at every struggling tomato plant I have ever seen. And once you understand what is actually inside that bag, you will never look at it the same way either. Every summer, thousands of home gardeners watch their tomato plants slowly decline. Yellowing leaves, stunted growth, fruit that never properly develops, stems that go purple and gray instead of the lush, deep green they are supposed to be. And almost nobody knows the real reason why. Here is what caught my attention. In Osaka, there is a 70-year-old gardener named Fumiko who has grown tomatoes in the same small courtyard for over 4 decades. Every year, she gives her granddaughter a handful of seeds saved from that season's best fruit. The granddaughter plants them in the city in a container on her balcony, and they grow exactly the same way. Tall, dark green, heavy with fruit. Fumiko has never bought a bag of fertilizer in her life. What she has done every spring for 40 years is feed the soil before she feeds the plant. A barrel in the corner of her courtyard, ingredients from her kitchen and her small yard, stirred every morning, the same method her mother used before her. The tomatoes are not the point. The soil is the point. And once the soil is right, the tomatoes take care of themselves. So why does the rest of the world still reach for synthetic fertilizer pellets and chemical sprays when Japan figured this out centuries ago? Before we get into the actual method, we need to talk about what is most likely happening underneath your struggling plants right now. Because if you do not understand the problem, the solution will not stick. Pick up a bag of cheap potting mix at your local hardware store and read the label. It will promise you rich organic compost, slow-release nutrients, perfect drainage. What it will not tell you is that much of that potting mix has not finished composting. The organic matter inside it is still actively breaking down. And here is the part that changes everything. When organic matter is still decomposing, it does not release nitrogen into the soil for your plants. It consumes nitrogen from the soil. That means the moment you plant your tomatoes into that cheap mix, the mix itself begins competing with your plants for the very nutrients they need to survive. Your tomatoes are not just starving. They are starving while something in their own root zone is actively pulling food away from them. The symptoms are unmistakable once you know what to look for. The leaves turn a dull purplish gray instead of bright green because the plant cannot produce enough chlorophyll without nitrogen. The growth tips stop elongating. The plant puts out a desperate handful of flowers and fruit in a last attempt to reproduce before it gives up entirely. New leaves come in tiny and pale. The whole plant looks like it is shrinking rather than growing. What is remarkable is how many gardeners blame themselves when they see this. They water more, they water less, they move the plants to a sunnier spot. They add more potting mix on top. None of it works because none of it addresses the actual problem, which is that the soil itself is robbing the plant. In Japan, this problem is approached from a completely different angle. The Japanese gardening philosophy, rooted in concepts like satoyama, the idea that humans and nature must exist in a cooperative relationship, teaches that you never force a plant to perform. You create the conditions for it to thrive on its own. And those conditions always start with the soil food web. A Japanese home gardener does not ask how much fertilizer to add. They ask what is already in the soil, what is missing, and how to restore the balance naturally. That line of thinking leads directly to a practice that has been used in Japanese kitchen gardens for hundreds of years. Brewing your own liquid fertilizer from ingredients that would otherwise be thrown away. This is not complicated. It does not require any special equipment. Everything you need is either already sitting in your kitchen or growing in your yard. Here's the method, step by step. The foundation of this brew is chicken manure. If you keep chickens, you already have it. If you do not, find a local farmer or a backyard flock owner and ask. Almost everyone who keeps chickens has far more manure than they can use and will give you a bag for free or for $1. You do not need much. 2 generous handfuls into a large barrel is enough to get started. Chicken manure has one of the highest nitrogen ratios of any organic material, and that nitrogen is exactly what your struggling tomatoes are missing. The second ingredient is something you already have sitting in your kitchen right now. Eggshells. Do not throw them away. Crush them, drop them into a jar of diluted white vinegar, and let them soak for 3 to 4 days before you use them. This step is the one most Western gardeners skip entirely, and it is the step that makes the biggest difference. When eggshells sit in vinegar, the acetic acid reacts with the calcium carbonate in the shell and converts it into calcium acetate, a form of calcium that dissolves directly into water and becomes immediately available to plant roots. Untreated eggshells sitting in soil take months to break down. Vinegar. Treated eggshells release their calcium within days of going into your brew. Tomatoes are among the heaviest calcium feeders in the vegetable garden. Calcium deficiency is the direct cause of blossom. End rot, that black, sunken patch that ruins the bottom of the fruit just as it is starting to ripen. By including the treated eggshells in your brew, you solve that problem before it starts. The third ingredient is green plant material, and this is where you have options depending on what you have available. At minimum, pull a few handfuls of weeds from around your yard before they have gone to seed and throw them in. Any green leafy material works. If you happen to have comfrey growing anywhere nearby, use that. Comfrey has a root system that goes down 2 meters or more and pulls up minerals from soil layers that your tomatoes can never reach on their own. Its leaves are dense with potassium, phosphorus, and magnesium. But this is optional. Do not let the absence of comfrey stop you from making the brew. Dandelion leaves, nettle, almost any green material from the garden will contribute something useful. The fourth ingredient, also optional, is seaweed. If you live anywhere near the coast, a bag of fresh seaweed rinsed to remove excess surface salt is an extraordinary addition. Seaweed contains natural plant growth hormones, cytokinins, and auxins that signal tomato plants to produce more flower sets and branch more aggressively. Japanese coastal gardeners have used it for centuries. If you are inland, skip it. The brew still works without it. The core ingredients are the chicken manure and the eggshells. Those two alone will produce a result. The green material and seaweed improve it. To assemble the brew, take the largest container you have. A plastic barrel with the lid removed, a large garbage bin, anything that holds water works. Add the chicken manure first, then the eggshell liquid and shells, then the green material. Fill the container to the top with water. Rainwater is better than tap water if you have it collected, because tap water contains chlorine that is designed to kill microorganisms, and that is exactly the opposite of what you want inside your brew barrel. But if rainwater is not available, tap water will still work. Leave the container somewhere out of direct sunlight. Every morning for the first 7 days, stir the brew deeply with a long stick. This is the most important maintenance step, and it costs you 30 seconds. Stirring introduces oxygen into the liquid, which feeds the aerobic bacteria that are doing the work of converting your raw ingredients into plant-available nutrients. It also prevents a stagnant film from forming on the surface that would shift the chemistry in the wrong direction. A stirred brew smells powerful. An unstirred brew smells genuinely bad in a way that tells you something has gone wrong. After 7 days, the liquid will be dark and intensely pungent. This is exactly what you want. The nitrogen has been releasing from the manure. The calcium has been dispersing from the treated eggshells. The mineral compounds from the green material have been integrating throughout the water. What you're looking at is a living liquid fertilizer that contains not just nutrients, but the microbial life that helps plant roots absorb those nutrients efficiently. No commercial bottle contains what is in that barrel. To apply it, dilute 1 part of the brew with 10 parts of water. The resulting liquid should look like weak tea, pale amber rather than dark brown. Pour it slowly at the base of each plant, directly onto the soil, not onto the leaves. Do this every 3 to 4 days for plants that are visibly struggling, and once a week for plants that are healthy and growing well. Here's what happens. This is the part that surprises people the first time. Within 3 to 4 days of the first watering, the growth tips on your struggling plants will begin to green up. The gray-purple color will start to fade. Within a week, new leaves will emerge that are noticeably larger and darker than the ones that came before. Within 2 weeks, a plant that looked like it was going to die will be producing multiple new growth tips, throwing flower clusters, and building toward a proper harvest. This is what Fumiko's granddaughter noticed the first time her grandmother showed her the method. She had bought a commercial liquid fertilizer from the store, and it had helped a little. Then she tried the barrel brew. By the end of the second week, she called her grandmother to ask what she had actually put in it. Fumiko said, "Nothing special, just kitchen waste and a little patience." The reason it works so fast is that the nutrients in the brew are already dissolved and immediately accessible to root hairs the moment the liquid reaches them. There is no breakdown process to wait for. The work has already been done inside the barrel. One mistake to avoid in the first week. When plants have been severely starved, the instinct is to give them a heavy dose. Resist it. A concentrated application to roots that are already stressed can cause fertilizer burn. The leaf tips will brown and curl, and the plant will look worse, not better. Dilute the brew more than you think you need to at the beginning. Start with 1 part brew to 15 parts water for the first 2 applications, if the plants are in serious trouble. Then move to the standard 1 to 10 dilution once you see the first signs of recovery. As the season continues, keep adding to the barrel. More green material, more eggshells, whatever is available. The brew only improves with age and additions. By midsummer, you will have a liquid that is richer and more complex than anything you could buy, and it will have cost you nothing except 30 seconds of stirring each morning. At the end of the growing season, tip the spent solids onto your compost heap or dig them into a bed you are preparing for next year. Start a fresh barrel at the beginning of the following season. Done consistently for 2 or 3 years, this method changes your soil in ways that no single-season treatment can. The microbial life accumulates year over year. The organic content of the soil builds. Drainage improves. Plants that once struggled in the same beds begin to thrive because the ground itself has changed underneath them. That is what Fumiko understood. That is what she passed to her daughter and then to her granddaughter with a handful of seeds and a wooden stirring stick. Not a product, not a schedule, a way of thinking about the soil as something alive that you maintain rather than something inert that you pour chemicals into. Your tomatoes are not failing because you are a bad gardener. They are failing because something in the ground is working against them. Fix the ground, and they will do the rest themselves. Start the barrel this week. The 7 days of brewing is what this method costs you in time. In return, you get a soil that finally works with your plants instead of against them. That trade is one of the best you will make all season. If this changed how you think about feeding your garden, subscribe. Next week, we are covering the Japanese method for eliminating fungal disease in tomatoes without any sprays at all. If you want to see how to collect rainwater for your garden at almost zero cost, that video is on screen now.